So the focus of the charity is very much high school age, but like I say, we're really starting to help people either side of that as well. But in terms of young people with additional support needs, the history of AYF's involvement there would be that when we started up in both the green huts to begin with and at the church hall, we had a young person come along with a wheelchair, quite complex needs in a wheelchair, but full of life and really just wanted to join in. Didn't really want any sort of special arrangements put in place, just needed access and just needed inclusion. And she was a right wee ray of sunshine, to be fair. And she came into an awful lot of stuff that we put on every week. So that was great having her in. And really, from the start, focused us in on making sure we were inclusive, that we were including all kids, whether it was things like when we had the church hall in Brodick, we just had to plan what games we had and how we were going to play them, because you had to remember someone was coming in a wheelchair and were they going to be able to join in with your sports that you planned that night or your games. Did you lay your tables out in a way that a wheelchair could fit in and fit around and sit and do the board game or the card game or whatever it might be. So that was really kind of first experience, but particularly looking at Jodie. Now Jodie started coming to us in 2016 when she was in second year. Do you remember that, Jodie? Do you remember when you first started coming? Yeah? That was a wee while ago, wasn't it? I remember it well, and in preparing for this, I actually looked back, because I remember how it came about. Jodie's mum Anne sent me a message out of the blue. I don't think I had met Anne before that, and she sent me a message out of the blue just saying, I wanted to talk to you about my daughter Jodie. She has some additional support needs, but we're looking for somewhere for her to go that she can socialise and have a bit of fun. I remember her saying at the time there was nothing locally, there was nothing on Arran really like that, somewhere that Jodie could go. And I looked back at the message, so she was going into second year at the time, and the quote was, she doesn't really mingle with the other kids, which looking back even now, knowing Jodie and knowing how that's changed a little through AYF, makes me sad to think that there would be a young person on the island who wasn't mingling with other kids. That shouldn't be the case. So my first thing was to go back to Anne, and I can't remember if we just spoke on the phone, I think we maybe met up. But I certainly went back to her and said, look, not a problem, Jodie would be more than welcome, would be more than happy to help. Certainly don't want to, like I say, think of a young person who doesn't mingle with other kids her own age. So my first thought was absolutely, yes, Jodie is welcome. Anyone is welcome with any AYF. But privately, had my own concerns, having Jodie in, there was a couple of things that we had to sort before Jodie could come in. So my own experience before I worked on Arran, I worked in and out of school care, which was taking primary kids in after school and childcare, supervising them until their parents could come in from work or whatever. So I did that for a number of years before I came here, and in that role I worked with kids with disabilities, but it was never me as the organiser, I was just the employee, and I just did what I was told and supported those kids. And sometimes it might be a 1-to-1 with a kid, it might be a 2-to-1, but I never had all the other considerations of staffing and timings and arrangements and does it actually suit tonight for this person to come. So first of all, this was really my first experience of leading on those arrangements with someone with Down syndrome coming in. When we first had Jodie in, we had to think about extra staff being in, which was extra cost. We had to make sure we had the staff to do that. So I had all those concerns. I also wondered how the other kids in AYF might handle having Jodie in. It was something a little bit different from what we'd had before. There hadn't been anyone come to the service with Down syndrome before, and I wondered how the other young people might react to that, if they would be okay, if they would be welcoming. And I had my own expectations, which were that it might be difficult, Jodie's mum had told me at the time she was a wee bit of a flight risk at the time. There were times back then where she would just take a fancy of just being off, so you very much had to have extra staff and have extra eyes on her. So before I met Jodie, I had all these concerns going around my head about staffing and what if she takes off and this might be difficult and how's she going to fit in. But I'm very happy to say the reality was just fantastic. Just so happy. It was such a happy experience. It still is. It was just fantastic. Jodie just come in and made the place a lot brighter. And the nice thing actually, so like I say, there's myself and there's Holly, our other youth worker. We also have Moira Manson. I don't know if any of you know Moira. Moira works in Arran High School in pupil support, and Moira works with us. So actually when Jodie came in, there was already someone that she knew there, and Jodie only knew Miss Manson, as she calls her, as pupil support. So this was a good way for Jodie to meet Moira and have a bit more fun time with her, and it meant from our point of view we already had someone who knew Jodie, knew how she was and knew the signs of when she might be a flight risk. There were always warning signs if she was ready to abscond, so it was great having Moira there, and like I say, it was brilliant having Jodie there, and we had an awful lot of fun. In terms of my concerns about how the other young people might respond, they were completely unfounded, to be honest. I maybe should have had more faith in the young people, because they've always been incredibly welcoming of Jodie. They've always gone with her like a house on fire. She's a very difficult person not to go on with, to be fair, but a couple of wee stories that I've jotted down here of times where I saw the young people just be so welcoming with her. I remember at Cooking Club one night we were making pancakes, and you know, we've got lots of other young people in, lots of other kids crowding around the kind of kitchen worktop and lots of other things going on. So our attention might have been elsewhere for a moment, and I turned back round, and there was one of the young people, one of the young guys, helping Jodie make pancakes. So the longer Jodie's been with us, it's often not the staff that support and play with her and all these things, it's usually the young people themselves. And I think back to that comment, she doesn't really mingle with other kids, and that's definitely happened within AYF. What Jodie likes to do when she comes in is play a lot of kind of board games and card games and these kind of things, and the other young folk love doing those with her. One of the things that Jodie loves to do is play Xbox, and I just wondered if you wanted to tell us what game you like to play, Jodie. There's one game in particular. Moira's not a big fan of it. What game's that? You know fine well, what is it? What game do you play in the Xbox? It's the wrestling, isn't it? So, it sounds very violent, and it is quite violent to be honest. That's one of Jodie's great passions in life, is her, what is it called? WWE?
WWE.
She's pointing at her t-shirt, that's... Dad would know. What's this wrestler, Dad?
The Bella Twins.
The Bella Twins.
Female wrestler, she likes divas.
There's not the Bella
Oh,
Twins.
sorry.
There's talk about Queen Bella.
Talking about Brie-Bella.
Queen Bella. There's a Bella Twins talk about.
One of the Bella Twins, yes. Sorry. Oh.
I seem to have woken Jodie up there by mentioning one of her favourite subjects.
I told you it would just be a spark.
I could do another 10 minutes on wrestling if you want. That may be more interesting.
Can I ask her how that works on a screen?
Yeah, so it's the Xbox and she's got the controller. And what do you do?
Console.
So she can move the people?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Now, the way it works is she can move her wrestler, I can move my wrestler,
right.
and one's supposed to fight the other one and win. Beat. I always get beat. I don't know what I'm doing. You always beat me, Jodie, don't you?
Well done, Jodie.
Every time. Every time. Yes. I would love to say I was letting her win or something, but I'm not. So the reason that was on there was because, like I say, some of the kids will happily sit and play wrestling with her on the Xbox. And actually I remember whole nights where we were in the church hall in Brodick and they were all lined up in the big hall playing sports, dodgeball, whatever it was. And one of Jodie's favourite things to say is, hold on. And then she takes charge at that point when she does that. I remember nights where she was bossing 20 kids, you go there, you do this. And they would all just play along. So they have always been fantastic with her. And like I say, she's been fantastic for us having her in.